Now, I'll be honest, this channel has been built up of a lot of quote-unquote hot takes, or maybe some takes that some people don't necessarily agree with, but I think this one is pretty unanimous, or pretty damn close to it, because Batman Arkham Knight should have been the finale to the Arkhamverse. Yeah, the finale. Now, I would be lying to say if I didn't want to see some other games happen. Maybe some spin-offs or something like that. But at the same time, with what we got with Suicide Squad to kill the Justice League, based around the story of it, I think we should have completely got rid of the idea that was somehow an extension of the Arkhamverse, making Batman Arkham Knight the finale of the Arkham franchise, or at least the kind of pseudo finale for the Arkham franchise. Now, in Arkham Knight, and I want to do a more minor breakdown of what happens in the Arkham Knights, because I believe that this game was an absolute masterpiece. I think it was beautiful, even though I know some people disagree with some of the choices made in Arkham Knight, but we all know that the death of the Joker happened in a previous game, and it has cut down crime in Gotham drastically. But it seems that Scarecrow is now back and looking to wreak havoc on Gotham itself. Now, Batman would more or less try to save Poison Ivy, who's being threatened over the fact that she won't help Scarecrow at all. And before Batman could even save her, he has to face down with a new hired gun that nobody knows who actually is. And this is where things get a little bit iffy for some of the people that actually played and actually enjoyed and actually critiqued Batman Arkham Knight. Because we know that the Arkham Knight would end up being Jason Todd. Now, most people actually didn't like the idea of him being Jason Todd. For me, on the other hand, I really enjoyed the fact that he was Jason Todd. I really wanted to see Jason Todd, or a quote-unquote Red Hood, in the Arkham franchise, and introducing him in this way I thought was an amazing take. Now, I could see why people wanted it to be a totally different person, because it would have felt pretty good to have this brand new villain that nobody knows who they are. Now, I want to talk about, or keep going down the line, that Batman Arkham Knight did have some interesting things to happen throughout the story, and it all led up to the very end, after he would basically have to deal with Scarecrow, Ace Chemical being a giant fear bomb, and so on and so forth. Of course, having to deal with the whole Joker storyline of him possibly becoming a Joker and then overcoming Joker's blood that is fused within him. But at the very end, we see one thing and one thing only, and that's the reveal that Batman is Bruce Wayne. Now, this right here is actually amazing for the Arkham franchise, in my opinion, because this feels like there's a definite end, or kind of like this massive consequence to Batman, or Bruce Wayne, being the Batman he was, the vigilante he became. There is massive amounts of, well, backlash. At the end of the day, now everybody knows he is Bruce Wayne. He gets injected with fear toxin, but he's unaffected because he's no longer fearful of what's happening. He's no longer fearing his face being out and so on and so forth. And then you would have, well, Scarecrow be doused with his own fear toxin. And this is where he would be terrified of Batman, seeing this fear like Batman stalking his prey. And yeah, that would be the quote-unquote pseudo end of the storyline. But of course, we have the Nightfall protocol as well, the final ending that we all see at the end of Batman Arkham Knight. The Nightfall protocol is faking the deaths of Alfred and Bruce Wayne, vacating Gotham forever now. I mean, it is completely done and dusted. We even see Commissioner Gordon become the mayor, and also him straight up tell people that Batman is a hero, that he should be praised for all the things that he's done and all the things that he actually did for Gotham itself. Now, this right here feels like an ending. It's as if it's a storybook ending for Batman himself. Batman can now go off into the wind, no longer exist, and soon enough, people will believe that he is some sort of mystery, maybe a folk tale, maybe a story made up to actually terrify criminals, which actually is brought up in a couple storylines, with the idea of Batman being quote-unquote fake, or this kind of imaginary thing. We even hear the Flash on the CW, or not the Flash on the CW, but in the CW Flash, we hear Green Arrow talk about how it's just a folktale and that he doesn't actually exist, or Batman doesn't actually exist. We also see an animated Flash basically remark that he didn't even know Batman was actually real, initially probably believing that he was, like I said, some sort of story made up to terrify criminals. But now he is that story. He may have existed once before, but at the same time, with him gone, or supposedly gone, it would feel as if now that is left, or all that is left, is just the fear in the criminals that he left behind. But of course, like I said, the ending would be a Nightmare Batman. I mean, we would see a Batman show up when two criminals are in an alleyway. They would basically say, oh, don't you know that Batman doesn't exist anymore? But then a fear toxin based, or seems like a nightmare based Batman would show his face, attacking the two criminals and subduing them. But of course, we would see nothing after that. It would go to black, and basically that would be the end of the Nightfall protocol. Now, overall, this would be a pretty darn good ending to the story of Arkham Knight, and also the story of just the Arkham franchise in general. And I just want to talk about all the reasons why Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League, leading into it, well, kind of ruined the finale, and also ruined the fact that we did get a pretty damn good cap off to the Arkham franchise. Now, Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League just should have never been attached to the Arkham franchise. I mean, at the end of the day, we should never be mixing already established franchises with a movie-inspired Suicide Squad. That's something that I've been saying, like, kind of on my own for a very long time, ever since Suicide Squad was put into development. Now, I liked the idea, I thought it was a cool premise, and I think people would have enjoyed it, and a lot of the hardcore fans would have enjoyed it a lot more if it just wasn't attached to, well, the Arkham franchise and the Arkham Batman we all loved so damn much. I mean, the fact that we're mixing kind of storylines, and we're kind of mixing in these characters that didn't really exist, and the attitudes and kind of the personality changes. I mean, the main thing that I disliked, and one of the biggest plot devices that I hated with Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League, was the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy dynamic. At the end of the day, the last we saw of Poison Ivy was her dying. And then also on top of that, the last we see of Harley Quinn was hunting for another Joker. So how does it make sense that Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy would have some sort of relationship in the Arkham franchise? Frankly, Poison Ivy should have hated Harley Quinn, like down to the bone of it, like bad. Now, we kind of, that's where we kind of divulge into this mixing of movies and also the Arkham franchise. It's a very odd thing that they decided to do, and there's a couple ways they definitely could have fixed it, but I feel like that is definitely a conversation and also a rant for a totally different day that I will most likely end up doing, because I have a lot of thoughts on the whole Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League game as a whole. Now, back to Batman Arkham Knight, because a lot of you may be saying, well, yes, maybe it should have been the finale just so we wouldn't have to deal with Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League, but we don't want the Arkham franchise to die right there. And I hear you. I absolutely hear you, and there's been a couple rumors and a couple things that have been said in the whole Arkhamverse that we could have gotten a Batman Beyond game, which would have been awesome, don't get me wrong. I thought that would have been insane, and frankly, I wouldn't have been too mad if we got that and Arkham Knight not be the finale of it all. But I would lead more to the idea of making this the finale, but then divulging into more of a spin-off type of game. Now, some of you may be like, oh, well, I guess you could look at Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League like that, like a spin-off game. but you really can't. They literally follow this storyline of as if all of these things happen to Batman and then he builds the Justice League and so on and so forth. But what I mean by a spin-off game, I would love to see maybe kind of a different angle taken. Maybe an Azrael game where you get Azrael and you have a missing Batman. I think that would be absolutely insane, and maybe something that was set up quite a bit and we possibly could have gotten at one point, but unfortunately they decided to divulge in a different direction. But also another version of it, and something I will definitely be making another video on, but I will reference it and speak on it a little bit now, is a Batman Who Laughs spin-off game. Now, we do have a lot of hints to the Batman Who Laughs, and yes, don't get me wrong, I know this Arkham franchise was actually created before the Batman Who Laughs even came about, so I'm sure there was massive inspiration taken from that, taken from the Arkham franchise to the comic. But we see multiple occasions of Batman turning, Batman becoming the Joker, Batman becoming more of that pseudo-like Joker, and we even see kind of visions of this that Batman fears, and I absolutely loved the premise of it. So why don't we get a different version of that storytelling ending? That version of Batman being the last Joker, the version of Batman where he actually doesn't overcome it. He doesn't overcome the Joker taking over, and the Joker takes over, and they fuse basically into one, creating the Batman Who Laughs, making it so that now you go and divulge into a different direction, and also leading into more of like that multiversal like travel, something that Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League really wants to utilize and really wants to just actually show off, which is the multiversal travel. Why not do it in a way of the Batman Who Laughs? I know a lot of people don't actually really like the Batman Who Laughs because the whole storyline of him and the way he was set up and stuff like that is definitely an odd one, but the way the Arkham franchise would have set up the Batman Who Laughs would have been absolutely insane. And if you get a more traversal style, multiversal jumping, and then also you get these very unique universes, I mean, this could be absolutely insane. It could be an absolute banger of a video game. But like I said, these would just be kind of alternate spin-offs. I would never divulge the Arkham franchise in a specific direction, especially if we're not going to just mainly focus it on Batman himself or a Batman himself, right? The fact that we divulged into this Suicide Squad game where it was linked to the Arkham franchise like so heavily, it just didn't make sense at all. Like, at all. You might as well have just made the Arkham Knight game the final or the finale of the entirety of the Arkham franchise, and then we could have gotten, well, your Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League type of game, not involving an Arkham Batman, just involving a Batman in general. Because let's just say they wanted it to involve Arkham Batman for publicity's sake. That's cool and dandy, but Batman's name, no matter what, holds a ton of weight. You didn't need to actually put the Arkham Batman, the one we all grew up with and the one we loved so much, within that said game. We didn't need that. Batman's name alone carries a ton of weight, and I think we all understand that, so there was really no point overall to put him in that situation or have that game go on. Now, back to Batman Arkham Knight, it was such a beautiful cap-off to the series because, well, we've been along the ride with Batman for so long, right? We've seen him go through villain after villain after villain, and then someone like it, or from his past, being that of Jason Todd, would show up once again. And yes, we don't really see much of Jason Todd throughout the story, but when he shows up once again and showing the weaknesses of Batman and also the vulnerability of Batman himself, and that's what really the Arkham Knight was, showing the vulnerability of Batman. The people he cares about being hurt, the fear toxin creeping into his mind, basically making him question if he can truly hold off the Joker, and also his like kind of implemented mind within Batman himself. And then on top of that, the vulnerability of Batman on that rooftop when he gets demasked and he feels that he no longer has control over this destiny that he's currently within. And he tells Commissioner Gordon that it's okay, take off the mask, it's over now. And as he does, everybody seeing that it is Bruce Wayne, shock would fill the cities, and shock would even fill Scarecrow himself, the one that wanted to torture and kill Batman and just make him feel true fear. Batman's vulnerability now being extinguished entirely, and that was a big thing throughout the Arkham Knight, was the vulnerability of what he's doing. The people he's around and the people that he takes care of are all in danger, and that's something that's been built up for a very long time, and I mean it, a very long time. Now, we obviously see him blow up his entire mansion with Alfred and himself within it, quote unquote. Of course, we know that's not 100% true. They don't die, of course, but still, this sends him off spiraling. He was forced into this situation. He is now having to look out for the people he cares about. I mean, we hear him have conversations with people like Nightwing and people like Tim Drake, and it seems like he's now realizing that he's going to make this ultimate sacrifice, that he's going to make this massive deal so that not only the Robin, Tim Drake, Dick Grayson, Alfred, Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon himself, they all will be okay as long as he leaves, and as long as he accepts the fact that it's now Nightfall, that it is now the end of it all, and that is now over for the Batman, at least to a large extent. And I really do see the fear toxin Batman as a totally different thing now. I see the fear toxin Batman not as a symbol of Batman himself, that he's back in Gotham stopping crime, but as, like I said before, that he is the mystery, that he is this story, that he is this folktale, that he is now this pure fear that will make every last person question if they should take that purse, if they should try and rob those people walking down the alley, if they should rob that bank, or if they should even walk across the street without having a crosswalk. Okay, maybe that's a little drastic, but still, that's what I see it as. I don't see it necessarily as Batman Returns. I see it more as the symbol that Batman has now laid the groundwork to keep Gotham itself safe. That he has now laid the groundwork for every single person that is in Gotham to feel like they are protected, that they are okay, and that everything will be fine, and that all of the dark days with the Joker, with Killer Crocs, with Scarecrow, and with all of these people taking over the city, and all of these people killing, hurting, punishing, and robbing, it's now down to a minimum and is now basically over. And the symbol that used to streak across the sky is no longer there, but all of the things he implemented in the city and every single thing he did within it is still there. So the signal in the sky may not be, but all of the things he did still live within Gotham. So that's the way I see it, and I think that the ending of the Arkham Knight would have been the best way to approach it, and would have been the best finale we could have gotten. And I know a lot of people and a lot of us would still love to see another Arkham game, a different version, the Batman Beyonds, or maybe the Azraels, and maybe the spin-offs, like I said with Batman Who Laughs. But Arkham Knight was such a beautiful finale, and if I had to choose between having Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League being the extended of the Arkhamverse, or just ending it off with Arkham Knight, I think I'd choose having Arkham Knight be the true and also the end of the Arkham franchise. and I would never want to see it trickle over into this movie propaganda. Now, with that said, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about the topic. Do you think Arkham Knight should have been the finale? How do you feel about Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League being involved in the Arkham franchise and being involved with Arkham Knight? With all that said, I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I hope y'all continue to enjoy my content. And as always, hey, if you enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you'll enjoy this one, so you might as well go check it out.